Angeles Oaks resident Joseph Escobedo says he's evacuating and only hopes his family will have a home to come back to.
We worked so hard to get this house, and just the thought of just coming back to nothing.
A small vegetation fire in Clear Lake City, 110 miles north of San Francisco, was forcing roughly 4,000 people to evacuate. I'm Julie Walker.
James Earl Jones, who overcame racial prejudice and a severe stutter to become a celebrated icon of stage and screen, has died. He was 93. His agent Barry McPherson confirmed Jones died Monday morning at home. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 484 points today. More on these stories at townhall.com.
You know,
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
My debt problem started probably about 2016. I needed my life to change financially. I called Trinity and I ended up joining based on high credit card bills and high interest rate. And my counselor at Trinity has been great, and Trinity has been helping me to get on the right path of paying off these credit card bills, bringing down the interest rate. They have consolidated my bills into one low monthly payment. And now I am finally getting out of credit card debt. So I just want to say thank you, Trinity, for showing me a better and greater path.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Sharon, and soon I will be debt-free for keeps.
1-800-990-6976. Cable.
Here's the Wall Street Business Report.
Stocks closed higher, ending a 4-day losing streak. The S&P 500 added 1.2%. The benchmark index coming off its worst week in nearly a year and a half. The Dow Jones Industrial Average and the NASDAQ Composite also rose 1.2%. Boeing helped lead the market after reaching a tentative deal with its largest union on a new contract. Palantir Technologies and Dell Technologies rose after being named to join the S&P 500. The Dow was up 484 points today to close at 40,829. The NASDAQ gained 193 to 16,884. And the S&P 500 added 62 points to 5471. For the Wall Street Business Report, I'm John Scott.
News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Clear and cool this evening with a low temperature dipping to 58. If you've liked today, you'll love tomorrow with more of the same. Lots of sunshine, a high topping out at 85. Clouds do roll in on Wednesday. We'll see more rain in the second half of the work week. Temperatures staying mild, high temperatures around 80 every day this week. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point. Please press button now. No, that number's bigger than the one I said.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblut and Chris Bergen. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil and Chris with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
Well, how are you? Good to have you with us on Sports Talk on this manic Monday after the weekend. What a weekend it was. What a weekend it was. Went up to Lexington, Kentucky, and watched the Gamecocks take care of their business, as I thought they would. You know, they didn't play great. Played better than they did against ODU. They played a game where it seems like these games with Kentucky, with South Carolina and Kentucky, are always sort of rough games. Rough in terms of they have a ragged edge to them. and penalties, turnovers, low scoring. And this game had pretty much all of that, especially on the Kentucky side of things. Kentucky played terrible. Now, if you're a Kentucky fan, you're feeling sort of like a lot of people around here felt last week. Probably real down about your football team, real down about your football coach. They didn't play well, and South Carolina played well enough. The Gamecocks still have areas of need of improvement, and they'll have to step it up. They'll have to improve again this week in practice and play at a higher level against LSU, a team that they are 9-point underdogs to be able to win that game. Now, they can beat LSU. Oh, yeah. They can beat LSU. But we're not going to get into that just yet. This is about taking your phone calls. Smitty will join us here momentarily. He was up at Clemson, where the Tigers just annihilated Appalachian State. I thought they would come back and play well, and they certainly did that. They turned loose all the Jets on Appalachian State, but you still can't judge Clemson at this point. Got a much better feel for South Carolina after Saturday. Still don't have a feel for Clemson because they got manhandled by Georgia and they beat a weaker kid. They beat up a weaker kid. That's what they did. So they've got 2 weeks to get ready for an NC State team, which is underachieving. But that will present them with a better test than Appalachian State did. Yet, Clemson did some good things. This was pretty Clemson. This was Clemson of 8 years ago, where they scored fast, they scored a lot, they scored big. But again, not tested by the opponent, so we still don't know. Smitty was up there for that. He's joined us now. Chris Bergen will be joining us momentarily. Oh, he is joining us.
I'm here.
Let's go to Bergie. First of all, welcome in. Coastal Carolina got a big win as well. But the first thing I want you to do, you just finished up with Dabo Swinney, who had because they have an off week, he has no press conference tomorrow, but he did a Zoom this afternoon, and I'm sure Tiger fans want to know what he had to say about Peter Woods and any of the other injured guys from that game, Kobe McLeod as well.
Well, before we get to that, I think it's unfair for you to compare Appalachian State to William T. Santiago.
Did you catch that?
Absolutely. It's my favorite movie of all time. A Few Good Men. Yeah, you drop. They beat up on a weakling. They beat up on a weaker kid. That's all they did. Yeah, no, you're not comparing App to William T. Santiago, though They did look like Willie Santiago on Saturday.
Yeah.
I was awfully impressed. I could not have been more wrong with both teams. Saturday with the Gamecocks and the Tigers. We'll get into that in a little bit. Basically, Dabo's just bragging about what he saw Saturday. Said he had never seen a game like that where they scored 8 consecutive touchdowns. I don't want to steal all of Smitty's thunder. Really, the only newsworthy of the 30 minutes thereabouts that Dabo just completed, he does not complain about open dates. They're actually going to go through work all week. Practice tomorrow through, I think he said Thursday. And then they'll have the weekend off before they come back. He said that Peter Woods is day-to-day. He did mention that 2 of their backups are out for the year with knee injuries. Let me get to
Kobe McLeod?
Yes, he's one of them, and Nix is the other.
Okay.
Caleb Nix.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, Caleb Nix out for the year as well, and Peter Woods is day-to-day. He didn't seem to be terribly concerned about Woods. So aside from that, he talked about Cade Klubnik being elite. I mean, clearly he was. I'm not sure I've seen him have a better game, and I guess that's probably the guy that they've been waiting to see from Cade Klubnik. That's the one that Dabo's been telling us he's got it in him. He certainly brought it out on Saturday.
Yeah, and that was really the story from Saturday night, which was Clemson came out and played with absolute precision, with purpose. And Korn made a good point, however. I'm not going to delve into a few good men quotes. I don't do a good Nicholson, but I will say that Korn made a good point in that we don't know who Clemson is yet because they played a super heavyweight in Georgia and got knocked out in the first round. And then they said, okay, and then they took on a welterweight in Appalachian State, very good in their class, but Clemson then knocked them out in the first round. So we haven't seen Clemson play 4 quarters yet. Cade Klubnik only played 2 quarters. So we don't know, but what we do know is this. Dabo Swinney was flying high Saturday night. He was mugging for the camera on the ACC network. He was so happy that he kind of put it back in everybody's court that anybody that had talked about the transfer portal You're not talking about the transfer portal on Saturday night. You're talking about Cade Klubnik's performance and Bryant Wesco. So it's over 500 yards in the first half, 712 yards. That's the first 500-yard first half in Clemson history. That's the only 500-yard first half I've ever seen anywhere except a video game. It was every bit, whatever you saw on television or the highlights, it was every bit that bad. I almost stood up and threw in a towel on the field in the first quarter. It was 35-0 after a quarter. Clemson had forced 5 punts. So forget Appalachian State's numbers. Joey Aguilar, Castle Anderson, or Anderson Castle, they put up some numbers after halftime, but forget that. That was after everything had been decided. This was about Cade Klubnik and Bryant Wesco and Phil Maffa and that Clemson team coming out and making a point. And they made it against the only opponent they played Saturday. So I'm like Korn. Phil Kornbluth just said you can't truly judge Clemson. I totally agree. But I also know this. Appalachian State was the only opponent Clemson had on the schedule, and they demolished that team. Those 712 yards were the most by any team over the weekend. Those 66 points, most by any team over the weekend. So Clemson was doing what it had to do last week. Now we wait and see. Frankly, that NC State game truly looms large. NC State, they're licking their wounds. They were embarrassed against Tennessee. So, they're having a hard day of practice today under Dave Doran. So I'm interested to see in 2 weeks what happens on that field, because the loser of that game will have a tough time fighting its way into the ACC championship. And to me, that's all that matters for Clemson at this point.
Yeah.
Whatever the critics say, wherever they are on the poll, they went from 25th to 22nd. Nonsense at this point. It doesn't matter. Clemson is focused on the ACC standings and winning an ACC championship. And to me, to do that, they probably have to beat the Wolfpack in 2 weeks.
Yeah, no question about that. So we'll hear more from Smitty on Clemson. We'll have a little bit of Dabo Swinney. Zach Willis, 1st and 10 at 7:35. Had a chance to see Zach and his beautiful family yesterday on the way back from Kentucky. Let me say, of course, the very scary situation on I-75 with that shooter who started shooting people in their cars on I-75 going north and south at about 6:30 on Saturday afternoon. That took place one exit from my hotel in London, Kentucky. Right. I didn't know about it until after we came up from the press box, and one of the writers said, are you going back to London? I said, yeah. Well, and she said, well, I-75 is shut down for a sniper. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So, jumped on X and other media outlets to find out what was going on. Thankfully, nobody was killed. At first reports said several were killed. Thankfully, nobody killed. Hunting for the guy, at least as of today. And when I drove back, I got to be honest with you. When I drove back, I kept my head on a swivel as I was coming through that part.
I guarantee it.
I kept my head on a swivel. I didn't know where this guy was, and neither did they. I saw choppers above searching in the woods. I saw ambulances heading towards Lexington. Don't know if they were related to this or not, but they were coming up from the London area. I saw both exits. Exit 49 is where it occurred on I-75, and both exits were closed going north and south. Police presence there. You could see, I guess, the cars that were hit by his bullets were parked on the side of the road. Eerie situation, to say the least. So that just added a little bit more to the weekend. But back to the football game, which was the matter at hand. A great win, not a good win, a great win for South Carolina. When you're a 9.5-point underdog and you go on the road in front of a packed house, and very few are giving you a chance to do it. And you not only do it, but you do it in dominating fashion. You do it going away. You do it with all phases of your team. Like I said, it's a brawl. It's a street fight when they play Kentucky. It's never pretty either way for either team when they play each other. It's not a portrait out there when these two teams play. It's ugly football in some ways. But when you look at the South Carolina performance, they got good enough offense They had some big plays. They had some big down the field shots. Sellers was much calmer and much more under control than I guess he was against Old Dominion. He did have the one overthrow late in the first half. Otherwise, he was pretty sharp with his passing game when called upon to pass. They had enough running game to keep it honest, and receivers made catches. There weren't any drops that I can think of, and multiple people got involved in the catching game. And then, of course, defensively, they were, Clayton White's got that defense dialed up and well coached. They had a good scheme. They had a good game plan. They showed it against Kentucky. Of course, their defensive ends now are becoming one of the big topics in all of college football, and justifiably so. They're playing great. Secondary played excellent. Kicking game. Herrera made another field goal, and Kroger averaged over 51 yards a punt. So it all came together. Shane Beamer and his people had a good game plan, and they executed it, and they went into a tough place to play and won. And now they come back to play another ranked team, a team that has owned them over the years, and they've got a spotlight on them now. And this is a situation where if you're South Carolina, you can't let the Kentucky game be played in your head again. I mean, it's great to win it, but that's not going to help you now against a better team, against LSU, which is coming in with one loss and a win last week in which they struggled for a little bit before they put Nicholls State away. But, LSU still has national championship and playoff aspirations, so they're coming in to play desperate football to try to knock South Carolina out early on in front of the big audience and everything that's going on around the football game. So great win for South Carolina. This was one that you look at the beginning of the season, you say yes they can win, yes they can lose. If they win, it really puts them in a decent position to have a good first third of the season. So by winning that game, I mean, they should be no worse than 3-1 after they play Akron in 2 weeks at 7:30. That's a 7:30 kickoff in Columbia in 2 weeks, Akron. Now, you beat LSU, and the sky's the limit for you. But right now, you really can't sit here right now today and put that one in the win column. We'll talk about how they can win it as the week moves on. But I think 100% of Gamecock fans would have signed up for 3-1 after 4 games. Before we move on, how about Coastal Carolina? A convincing win for the Chanticleers. 2 solid, dominating performances to open up the season. Better than expected, or right about what you thought?
No, I think after the Jacksonville State game, that was the one that concerned you. You felt like you should be better, much like Clemson was going to rebound if they lost to Georgia. You figured they'd rebound against Appalachian. Same thing with Coastal, with William and Mary. Though the 40-21 final score may have been a little deceiving, Coastal scored 30 of the first 37 points of the game and then kind of put it on cruise control. It was really weird. Real good first quarter, good start to the second quarter. And after that, they just sputtered around offensively. Got a lot of field goals from Cade Hensley, who's becoming a weapon for them as place kicker. But, yeah, probably not as a matter of fact, at halftime, head coach Tim Beck was telling our radio crew and radio broadcast that he basically had a come to Jesus meeting with his team at halftime. He was not happy with the way they handled the second quarter, and I don't think overly impressed with how well they played third and fourth quarters. I think defensively probably takes away from thinking, all right, we've improved a little bit from Jacksonville State, still getting pressure on the quarterback, making it tough on these teams, but they should. I mean, you talk about South Carolina looking at 3-1 after 4 games or possibly being 4-0. I think Coastal goes up to Temple this weekend. That's a winnable game for them, surely. And then they come back home for one of the bigger home games they've had in a long time. They'll host Virginia in 2 weeks at Brooks Stadium. It's going to be a packed house, big-time ball game. If they come into that contest 3-0, I'm not sure I'd want to be Tony Elliott on the other sideline, because that's going to be a tremendous challenge. And if Coastal gets to 4-0 with a win over Virginia at home and a win at Jacksonville State on the road, they'll start turning some people's eyes, I would think.
Absolutely. Virginia got a nice win at Wake Forest, an exciting win. I'm sorry, that game was at Virginia. They got a nice win at home against Virginia. I'm sorry, let's try this again. They got a nice win at home against Wake Forest. Virginia beat Wake Forest. So Tony Elliott's kind of got that program on the come up here early in the season. A lot of things like that happening around the ACC and the SEC. Syracuse beating Georgia Tech to get to 2-0. touch on all that coming up in a little bit. By the way, that Clemson-NC State game a week from Saturday will have a noon kickoff for Clemson and NC State in Death Valley. So might as well go ahead and leave now and get in traffic. No, actually, the last time I went up there for a 12 o'clock game, fearing I was going to be stuck in traffic for hours on end, it was a very smooth ride. I hit it about 10:15 or so, and man, I just cruised right on in. So I'm hoping it'll be the same thing for this game against NC State. All right, guys, let's take some phone calls. 888-898-2525. South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. I was at USC. Smitty was at Clemson. Bergie was at Coastal. Nobody else covers all three of our big schools game by game like we do here on Sports Talk, and we're proud of that. Let's welcome Gamecock Larry into Sports Talk. The undefeated, let me go back and rephrase that, the undefeated, well, when it comes to the Gamecocks, because he picks Clemson to lose every game. The undefeated when it comes to the Gamecocks, Gamecock Larry.
And got their point total correct. Didn't you say 31, Gamecock Larry?
34, 24, but that's all right. But I got something to say on Wildcat Sammy. Wildcat Sammy, I got your Gamecock cap, Gamecock hat, wait a minute, Gamecock cap, Gamecock shirt, Gamecock pants, Gamecock socks, and Gamecock shoes.
How about
Come
Gamecock
on,
underwear?
Oh, yeah, well, I got some of them too, but he ain't going to change clothes. Now, he going to put these on. I'm going to take a picture, and I'm going to put it on Facebook. Wildcat Sammy, putting all look pretty in Kentucky blue. Gamecock Larry in Kentucky blue on Facebook. Man, wouldn't that be something? But I got you. Now, another thing. I got a message, a voicemail from what do you call that thing down there? Boo-Boo? I don't know, I forgot what they call it. Willie. His name is Willie. No, Billy. LaRue Billy or something. I don't know where Blue Billy is from, but you left me a message on my Facebook. Slow down, Griff.
Slow down.
You left me a message. Slow down. You left me a message. You left me something on my voicemail. And you said that now you called from a restricted number. That shows that you ain't got that intestinal fortitude to call old Gamecock Larry. I'm going to tell you that right off the bat. You said that you was going to give me 17 points. Well, I don't know where you're from. What do you call that? What do you call them tigers down there? LaRue or something. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to tell you. I don't know where you're from.
Are you talking about the Bayou?
Bayou Billy. That's what they call it. Bayou Billy. Bayou Billy. Let me tell you something. I don't know where you're from. I ain't never heard of you, but I know you're listening, but you ain't going to call old Gamecock Larry on a good number he can call you back. I am going to take you up on that 17 points. But I'm going to tell you something, Bayou Billy. I don't need 17 points. And I will tell you what's going to happen between Thursday and Friday. And we are going to take your Bayous to the woodshed. We're going to win this game. Game day in town. Boy, I'll tell you what, we're going to be rocking and rolling. Gamecock Larry going to be sitting there in the recliner, looking on the TV, got the radio in my ear. We're going to win this game. I'm going to tell you how bad about Thursday or Friday.
All right.
But you done got old game. You ain't got the intestinal fortitude to call me by a number. What's wrong with you, Bayou Billy? It's a Gamecock Larry. Love all y'all.
All right.
Go Gamecock.
All right, Larry, take those 17 points. If you can get 17 points, I would grab it
absolutely
right now. Don't hesitate. Let's continue on the phone lines, and it's Tiger Bryan with us next. Hello, Tiger Bryan. Good to have you with us.
Hey, You know what? I'm glad you didn't get shot or nothing up there, man. That's
telling you,
crazy.
brother.
Hey, I'm glad. I pray God you got it. You know what I mean? But hey,
I'm just
but
happy nobody was killed. That was unbelievable.
Bayou Billy's listening now because I got Gamecock Larry's back. I'll take 17.2.
I bet you would.
Man, they better leave my. Hey, they better leave. Hey, they better leave my Gamecock buddy now. You know what I mean? I love old Gamecock buddy now.
Yeah.
He's fired up, man. He's worse than me. But you know what? You talking about y'all don't know about the Hey, we put on the scrubs that we played 105 players. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you think that App State was that bad?
Smitty?
No, I don't think. No, I agree with that, Brian. And pardon me if I call you Bayou Brian. Bayou Brian.
You tell me what you tell me everything.
Okay.
Your brother, man.
No, I would agree with that. I don't think App State is that bad. I think Clemson was a true buzzsaw on Saturday night. They played. It doesn't matter the opponent. Clemson played to what Dabo Swinney talks about, the Clemson standard. And it begs the question, that playbook was completely different. They went over the top to Bryant Wesco Jr. early in the game. Now, everybody would say, well, that's because of the matchup. That's true. But Dabo Swinney, I think, unleashed Bryant Wesco, and he unleashed Garrett Riley on Saturday night. Now the question is, in 2 weeks, which playbook will they run? That was a very conservative game plan against Georgia, which was, for obvious reasons. It's Georgia. You can't fall behind early. But will Clemson let it all hang out at Death Valley at noon in 2 weeks? Because to me, that's when they might be at their best, because their most dynamic athletes this season are guys outside. Antonio Williams, Bryant Wesco Jr., let them go get it. And if Kate Klubnik has the arm to deliver, let them go get it. Because if not, Clemson won't reach the heights that that Clemson fans want them to reach without that type of explosive plays in the arsenal.
Here's how dominant Clemson was on offense. They lost 2 yards on their first play of the game, and I'm sure the fans were groaning about that, Smitty. I think it was a little pass that went for a loss of 2. And I went through the play-by-play. I don't think they had one other play, like late in the third quarter, where they lost a yard. I don't think they had another play from scrimmage where they did not have positive yardage, except for like that first snap of the game where they lost 2 and then maybe one play later on. Everything else for them was positive yardage, and big positive yardage.
Well, guys, you know what I'm saying?
Over the top.
Yep.
Can I talk a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Damn, yeah. Y'all don't let me talk no more?
We got the mic. We got the mic open for you for 20 seconds.
Okay. Hey, but you know what? Gamecock Larry, you tell him I got his back with that daggum Yahoo down there in Louisiana. I'll take 17 too. Baby, you know what? We're going to wear North Carolina.
All right, we got to run to the break. Be right back.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Clear and cool this evening with a low temperature dipping to 58. If you today, love tomorrow with more of the same. Lots of sunshine, a high topping out at 85. Clouds do roll in on Wednesday. We'll see more rain in the second half of the work week. Temperatures staying mild, high temperatures around 80 every day this week. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
Dave Ramsey here. Do you want your money to work for you rather than you working for your money? Go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank and have been serving the Midlands since 1936, offering good old-fashioned customer service and free services. They'll look out for your financial well-being. With 14 locations, check them out today at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCU.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting famous fans and collaborators are paying tribute to actor James Earl Jones. The star of The Lion King and the commanding voice of Darth Vader died Monday at the age of 93. Jones's Star Wars co-star Mark Hamill told the Associated Press he was one of the world's finest actors and that his contributions to the beloved franchise are immeasurable. Many questions in last week's Georgia school shooting are still unanswered, including how the suspect brought a semi-automatic assault rifle to the campus of Appalachia High School and what may have motivated the violence. The shooting Wednesday in Winder, north of Atlanta, killed 2 teachers and 2 students. On Wall Street, the Dow by 484 points. The Nasdaq rose 193. More details at srnnews.com.
I was thinking about the things that matter to me when it comes to calling the plumber. First, most of us call the plumber out of a need, often a crisis. So you want reliability. Then, we're in a vulnerable place already, so you want someone you can trust, someone who will be fair in their pricing and handle things professionally. These are some of the reasons I feel comfortable recommending Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning. See, they've been out to my home. They've been out to my brother's home, too. Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning did such a great job. And maybe this might not matter as much to some people, but they're locally owned. A lot of these plumbing companies you've heard of used to be local, and now they're owned by big national or even international conglomerates. Working with a locally owned company matters. It keeps your pricing down, and the money stays local here in the community. Josh and his team at Franklin makes customer service their top priority. I trust them. You can too, especially during these vulnerable times. Online, it's franklinplumbing.sc.com or call them 799-2222. That's 799-2222.
Hey y'all, this is Ted from Flight Deck Restaurant. We'd like to invite you and your family to dine with us. We have a great menu that's sure to please your whole family. We have fresh cooked burgers, big juicy wings, blue plate menu featuring country cooking, oven baked hoagies, fresh crisp salads, authentic Greek food like gyros, souvlaki, and baklava. We also carry 20 premium cheesecakes and pies. Flight Deck Restaurant also has an arcade with 30 different games like Star Wars, Batman, Skee-Ball, Bass Wheel, Pac-Man, Galaga, and so much more. Flight Deck, your favorite family restaurant. Thanks y'all and God bless.
Football season is grilling season, and Jack Oliver's Pool Spa and Patio is South Carolina's premier source for the Big Three: Weber, Traeger, and Big Green Egg Grills. I'm Jack Oliver. Grill all your tailgate favorites to perfection with a premium gas, charcoal, or pellet grill, then top it all off with something sizzling from your griddle. For grills, griddles, patio furniture, hot tubs, and saunas, shop in store or online at Jack Oliver's Pool Spa and Patio, Forest Drive in Columbia, and jackoliverpools.com.
As we celebrate 10 fantastic years at Sweet Comfort Services, we're cooling you off with beatable deals on all SEER 2 and high-efficiency AC equipment. Hey Point family, mention this ad and get a thorough spring maintenance check from our expert non-commissioned techs for just $95 for your first system and a chill $45 each additional system. Look us up at sweethvac.com or call us at 331-8143. Celebrating a decade of keeping you cool and comfy. That's the Sweet Comfort promise.
Imagine a cooler home this summer and a warmer one during winter without the sky-high power costs. Redbird Windows and Doors offers you the solution with our state-of-the-art energy-efficient windows and doors. Locally operated, we promise a hassle-free experience with our expert team handling everything from consultation to installation and doing so flawlessly. Upgrade your home's comfort on those energy bills. Visit redbirdwindows.com or call us 727-0561 today. Redbird Windows and Doors. Local experience matters.
I walk a lonely road, the only one that I have ever known. Don't know where it goes, but it's only me and I walk alone.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Talk Media Network. Back to your phone calls in just a second. 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number will get you in touch with us. You can get in touch with Jimmy Smith at James Smith Realty, Paulie'sVacationRentals.com to get yourself a great place for a vacation. Maybe you want a little fall vacation, a little early fall, early winter vacation down at the beach. Great time to go to the beach. Everybody else has gone home. The place will be all yours. 843-237 quiet. 843-237-4246. That's 843-237-4246. Online at Paulie'sVacationRentals.com. Make plans for your perfect beach getaway. Let Jimmy and his staff work with you to find the right place, the right price. Maybe you want to buy a piece of property at the beach, and Jimmy can work with you on that as well. 843-237-4246. That is for Jimmy Smith and James Smith Real Estate. Yeah, I know not everybody's gone home, but many people have gone home.
Yeah, no, I passed it. It must have been at least 3 cars from Ohio, another one from Pennsylvania going to the game on Saturday. Yeah, the way schools have sort of changed their school calendar with the year-round schooling, the modified year-round schooling like we have here in Florence. Their vacation times all year round. My point being, don't wait around. If you want a place at the beach, you need to call Jimmy right now.
Yeah.
And you need to go ahead, whether it's in October, whether it's in February of next year, or whether it's next summer. Don't waste time, because I'm telling you, there are folks that are going to be at the beach all year round now.
Gotcha. Okay, phone number 888-898-2525. Let's go to Andy or Vern. Which one is it? I got 2 up there. I got 2 different lists.
Everybody dropped off except for Andy.
Andy in Columbia. Okay, that means lines are back open. Andy, welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
Well, other than being a little sad being a Met fan, losing one of our amazings today, Ed Kranepool passed away.
Heard that.
And, hate to see that. But, people...
I was listening to New York radio this afternoon, and they were talking about that. 17 years old, he signs with the Mets out of... grew up in the Bronx, I believe, and became one of the all-time great Mets. Of course, heard a guy call in and name the 4 managers he played for. He played for 4 Hall of Fame managers in his career.
Yep.
Wow.
He was an original. Hit a home run in Game 3 of the '69 series. And, when you think about the Mets, you think about Ed Kranepool. So, sorry to see him pass.
Yeah. Let me say something about New York sports. Let me say something about New York Sports Talk Show fans. I do listen to the Michael Kay show in the afternoon when I can. He's the TV voice of the Yankees, so I like to hear what they got going on. But, of course, their entire show was about the Giants and their pitiful performance yesterday, and Daniel Jones. And, I mean, they're just like college fans. You think that the New York fans, the NFL fans are so sophisticated. You know what? They bleed after a loss just like the college fans do. They're ready to fire the coach. They're ready to trade the quarterback. They're just ready for a change. So it's no different at the NFL level as it is at the college level. Okay, go ahead, Andy. I'm sorry.
Well, we'll see what happens tonight with my Jets and how they stand. So, but Kranepool, sorry to see him go. But like I said, 80 good years. So
James Earl Jones passed away today at the age of 93. That's a loss for the entire world. Yeah.
No, I did not see that.
Yeah, that's a loss for the entire world. Yeah.
Okay, regarding South Carolina football, if Lennar Sellers gets hurt, what I saw out of Ashford, right? He didn't look very impressive to me for someone who's had how many SEC starts?
I don't know. I thought he did fine stepping in when he had to after Sellers got hurt. I mean, he didn't hurt him. Their offense.
Hurt him, but he sure didn't move.
Their offense.
He moved the ball as well.
Their offense is still a work in progress. I'll give you that. They had some good plays. They had some big plays down the field. They still have no consistent running game. The blocking up front was, I think, now I wasn't at the ODU game, only watched it on tape, but I think the blocking up front, generally speaking, was probably better than it was against Old Dominion. Sellers did have, there was one time on consecutive plays where he got racked and he fumbled the ball, and the Gamecocks were fortunate to recover both times. But otherwise, he was upright. He was able to look around in the pocket at times. But I'm not going to say the offense was great by any means. They just did enough, which is usually the case against Kentucky. Low scoring, you do enough, you get special teams, you get good defense, and you win that game. So that's how they put it together. I don't think Ashford hurt them by any means.
Well, I think Sellers going from game 1 to game 2's passing game was tremendously better than what it was in game 1. And the little bit of passing Ashford did, which I think was very limited, didn't look very outstanding to me for someone who has had as much SEC experience. But I'll tell you one thing. Our defensive line, I hate to say this because I'm afraid I'm going to jinx them, but they look like the real thing. I mean, they're brutes. They were just, I mean, those guys are all over the ball, all in the backfield. And if they can continue what they're doing with the defensive backs that we have, who are pretty good ball hawks, and we have Debo Williams sitting back there in the middle. It's a pretty formidable defense.
Well, let me say this about Robbie Ashford, and then that he only threw one pass. He was 1 for 1 for 7. He also ran 6 times for a net of 26, averaging 4.3. Had one run of 18 yards. I think he did just fine stepping in. When Sellers hurt his lower leg.
Well,
as far as
my problem,
yeah,
Phil, was this, because I think we had the ball. We got the turnover, I believe, and we had the ball within inside an area that I think we should have been able to get a touchdown, and he wasn't able to move get it to a touchdown, and we had to settle for a field goal.
Yeah.
So maybe that's where I'm a little bit more disappointed in this play.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. As far as the defense, yeah, in my eyes, and we're going to let you go, Andy, because we're booked up. But thank you for calling.
Kroger looked great.
Oh yeah,
I'll tell you,
51.6 yards per punt.
From last year to this year, his leg's back to what it was a couple of years ago. Like I said, I hope what I'm saying is not jinxing what's going on. But y'all fellas have a good night. And
You too.
appreciate the time.
Yeah, man.
Andy, I may try and go see your boys play on Friday. They're in Philadelphia to face the Phillies. Problem is, I've got to pull against the Mets now because of the way they played the last 2 weeks. They've gotten in a tie with the Braves for second place in the division, and I doubt the Braves are going to catch the Phillies. So we may try and go see the Phillies and Mets on Friday night.
That sounds neat. Yeah, going up to Philly, that'll be a lot of fun. What I was going to say is, and I don't want to overstate it, okay, but these two guys they have at defensive end, and they roll more than those two in there, but that's as close to the combination of Clowney and Taylor that the Gamecocks have had since they had those two. I mean, Devin Taylor and Jadeveon Clowney, they were so destructive when they played together. And these two guys give South Carolina, and you're, like I said, I wasn't at the ODU game. And Smitty, you were at the ODU game, so you watched it in person. Stewart is every bit, at least through 2 college games, he's every bit as good as what was expected of him. And that's a good thing. If you're a coach and you recruit that kind of talent and you get that kind of return right away, you feel good about that.
Corn, I'll tell you, I think he's exceeded expectations early. Dylan Stewart, and I don't mean this to be overly critical, but I almost can't say it without being a little bit critical. I think Dylan Stewart is what Jordan Perch was promised to be. It just came a couple of years later for South Carolina. But I was not expecting – I saw what they did against Old Dominion. So you see Dylan Stewart, Kyle Kennard, Tonka Hemingway, TJ Sanders manhandle ODU up front. And you just think to yourself, well, it was only ODU. The offense didn't look great. It's an incomplete for South Carolina. We don't know who they are. Now, Corn, just like Andy, I'm ready to anoint this defensive line because TJ Sanders has developed, Tonka Hemingway is a player, and then you've got those two ends. Kyle Kennard looks like he's making a bid to be drafted highly, and Dylan Stewart has come in and made college football his own through 2 games. And his attitude, I was in the post-game press conference for Old Dominion, and Dylan Stewart said, this is what I do. This is what I do in practice. And his teammates agreed. They nodded. That's right. This is what he does. I mean, the guy wrecks shop. He wrecks game plans. And LSU had a good offensive line, but let's not forget this. Kentucky had 4 returning starters on the offensive line, and this is a team that gave up the fewest sacks in the SEC a year ago. I am impressed by the South Carolina defense. And you have players like Debo Williams and veterans like Nick Emmanwori in the backfield, on the defensive backfield, and O'Donnell Fortune making plays, athletes everywhere. This is like an Ellis Johnson defense all over again. And I just, for South Carolina fans, I hope there's enough offense to make it all pay off with some big victories. But LSU is watching this tape and watching it again and watching it again, and Brian Kelly's probably scratching his head right now, trying to figure out, how many tight ends and H-backs can we use to chip Dylan Stewart and Kyle Kennard?
And Phil, to your point, going back to Jadeveon Clowney and Devin Taylor, when was the last time that Carolina was able to record 5 sacks and 11 tackles for loss in a game, and then also play defensively? You want to talk about the depth the Gamecocks have. They played 31 guys defensively against Kentucky. I mean, some of the stats just pop off the page, and you held them under 200 yards. That's why you don't have to gain 450 yards to win ball games. You get the interception return for a touchdown, and you hold Kentucky under, 40-some-odd yards passing. It was incredible.
Yeah, and the other thing, when you're able to get that kind of pressure with a 4-man front, you don't have to blitz, and that just makes your defense all that more better. Can you say that? All that more better? I think I just did. So they don't have to blitz to get pressure on the quarterback and to get into the backfield. So that is a blessing for a defensive coach. Now, I will say this. They knocked down the big blue line, and they had 2 starters go down in the game. One of them did come back. Kentucky did. But Eric Wolford, who's historically speaking, an excellent offensive line coach, did not have those guys ready to block South Carolina. And then they had a couple of guys get hurt, and so that was a big problem for them. LSU has got to have across the board, one of the largest group of offensive linemen in the country. The smallest guy in the lineup is like 313 pounds. They have a tackle named Will Campbell, who I believe is considered a major NFL prospect. So, the ability to break through and get into the backfield with just a 4-man rush against that offensive line is going to be a challenge for South Carolina. As good as those guys have been playing, they're facing an elite offensive line group, I think, in LSU, from what I can tell. So this is going to be a heck of a challenge for them. If they are able to be as disruptive up front as they have been in their first 2 games, then they are truly onto something big. Now, one thing about this game as well, from a South Carolina standpoint, LSU is down a couple of guys. Their best running back is out. The guy they expected to be their top running back, John Emery, he's out for the season. And they've also lost one of their starting defensive linemen to an injury, at least for the next couple of weeks. So from an injury standpoint, you don't like to see anybody go down, but that's a situation that LSU is facing coming into this game against South Carolina. South Carolina seemed to come out of the Kentucky game. I was going to say the Gamecocks seemed to come out of the Kentucky game, except for the little ding up to Sellers. They seemed to come out of that game in pretty good shape from a health standpoint.
And you wonder, too, and it's ironic that it's LSU in South Carolina, but how the Tigers may have to handle this week, because there's the tropical storm about to turn a hurricane that's going to be sitting on top of them come Wednesday afternoon.
Ooh.
And you wonder if that may affect, if they get dislodged, displaced, if they have to go somewhere else to practice, if they fly out here to South Carolina and practice for a couple of days, elsewhere, how that might affect their preparations for the game.
That's an excellent point. All right, very quickly before the break, 888-898-2525 is our phone number here on Sports Talk. And let's keep it on the phones, and we go to, where are we going?
Going to Hank.
Going to Hank. Hank in Columbia next. All right, Hank, welcome in.
Hey, Corn, how's it going?
Doing fine.
It was a good game, and I'll tell you what, it's going to be interesting. You talk about LSU's line. Kentucky, I don't think Kentucky had anybody on their offensive line that was under 316 pounds.
Yeah.
Or under 314 pounds. They were as they were talking about them on the SEC Now and SEC Nation and stuff. They were saying it was one of the biggest lines in the conference. And so I think LSU probably has maybe a better skilled lineman, but I don't think they're going to be something that South Carolina, as far as the size-wise, hadn't seen. But I think it's going to be interesting because if you remember, and I'm sure you've seen it, at a point when they realized those defensive tackles, first I'm going to give them their kudos because Sanders and Hemingway and those guys, they were giving just as much up the middle as the guys on the end. But you remember, at one point, LSU used a tackle, H-back, and a guard to almost kind of like try to triple team Dylan Stewart. And he beat all three of them to get to the quarterback. And then he beat the first guy. He beat all three of them. And they've shown that play. Kentucky talked about it in the post game, and they've shown that play all over. He beat three people to get, and he got his hands on Vanderbilt and was bringing him down. I think Vanderbilt tried to throw it away and got a grounding or something. So it looks like, I'm a Smitty, it looks so much like an Ellis defense from the fact that, Gilbert, Edmond, and Ian and those guys rotating in at the end. So there was no point where our defense looked gassed like they've had in past years.
Yes, exactly. And we got to run to the break. Thank you. They rotated people in and out, and that was a good call by, was that Smitty that said that? They rotated people in and out almost every play on the defensive front. They got a lot of guys in there making plays, kept them fresh, though as the weather turned out, it was an unusually cool Saturday afternoon up there for this time of year. But kept them fresh, and I think that paid off as the game went on. Hit the break, back in a moment.
South Carolina's taste buds have spoken, and they're asking for beef. There are more than 7,800 farms raising cattle from pasture to plate, Palmetto. So whether it's steaks on the grill before the big game, sirloin medallions plated for date night, or burgers with the family, make sure beef is a part of your playbook this football season. Smoked, grilled, and slow roasted. Find the best way to enjoy your beef at sccattle.org. Beef, it's what's for dinner in South Carolina. Funded by the South Carolina Beef Council, part of the Beef Checkoff program.
Set your youth up for a lifetime of financial success with Smart Start from Founders Federal Credit Union. Smart Start products and educational resources help teach kids and teens the basics of saving, budgeting, and smart spending. Help them learn smart money skills to jumpstart their financial journey with smart savings, debit, certificates, and educational resources. Learn more at foundersfcu.com/smartstart. Federally insured by NCUA. Membership qualification required. Terms and conditions apply.
Call Lawyer Lisa. Experience the difference with Lawyer Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hosteller Brown. Did you know it's possible to avoid probate court after you die, regardless of what you own? Why put your loved ones through a long, stressful public process when there are better options for your family? Visit lawyerlisa.com to see how we can help.
Call Lawyer Lisa. Experience the difference with Lawyer Lisa.
7511 St. Andrews Road, Irmo, South Carolina.
A lot of things we take for granted in our lives. Your home's AC will run cool. Your drive-through coffee will be hot. And the car will start when it's time to take your kids to school. It's when things don't go as planned that you start thinking about who to call and where to turn. The good thing is, you can prepare for life's most difficult days by calling the Larry Lucas Agency today. Larry is a State Farm agent that has been taking care of people across South Carolina for more than 2 decades. You probably have insurance, but switching is easy, and bundling can save you hundreds or more. Most importantly, the Larry Lucas Agency can help you choose the protection you want at the price you want. All backed by South Carolina's #1 home and auto insurance company. Visit LarryLucasAgency.com today or give Larry a call at 803-799-1998. Like a good neighbor, Larry Lucas State Farm is there.
Calling all turkey hunters, this is Major Billy Downer with the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. Turkey season is coming soon. The most common accident while turkey hunting is failing to identify your target. Know the identifying features of a turkey. Make sure of your target and what lies beyond it before you pull the trigger. Remember, safe hunting is no accident. For more information on hunter education, visit dnr.sc.gov.
The South Carolina Education Lottery has entered a new rolling jackpot, and it's big.
How big? Bigger than a striped bass? Reel 'em in.
Way bigger.
Bigger than this world-class golf course?
4. Bigger than that.
Even bigger than the Gaffney Peach?
Let's just say with this new rolling jackpot, Palmetto Cash 5 is officially too big to ignore. Palmetto Cash 5 draws nightly, so play today and check if your numbers are winners in the Players Club app or at seeducationlottery.com. Overall odds are 1 in 10. Top prize odds are 1 in 850,668.
These are the days when you wish your bed was already made. It's just another manic Monday. Wish it was Sunday. That's my fun day.
Okay, a manic Monday. But maybe you're in a better mood than you were this time a week ago, though I think many of you were over the top last week, and I think some of you are over the top this week. You got to learn to pace yourself. We're 2 games in. We do know, I think, more about the Gamecocks than we do about the Tigers right now. Talk to me about the Tigers in 2 weeks. If they handle NC State in a nasty fashion, they might be on to something. South Carolina, going to have their hands full. The fact they beat Kentucky does not make Gamecocks elite. It doesn't make them a top-ranked team, a nationally ranked team, or anything like that. It's a good win, but they can be humbled. They could very easily be humbled by LSU at home on Saturday. Let's go to Marcus in Sumter. Next phone call here on Sports Talk. Why are you shaking your head?
Pretty sure it's Florence.
I thought you said Sumter. Wherever you are, Marcus, welcome in.
Hey guys, how you doing? Long time listener, first time caller.
Well, it's great to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hey Chris, how you doing, buddy?
Marcus, I am well. It's good to hear from you, my friend. See,
Good
and
to
I
hear from
can
you too, man.
affirm that Marcus is here in Florence. He does not live in Sardis nor Sumter.
Well, I was one of the ones last week that actually told Gamecock fans to relax. I had the Aaron Rodgers treatment here and just told the guys we had a lot of things to be excited about when you talk about the defense, but we needed to confirm that the defense is real. I really think that Saturday could be the defense coming out party on a national stage to really show what they can do. But I really think the key of the game is somehow, some way, if the Gamecocks can figure out a way to get Rocket up to about 80 to 90 yards minimum, that would really set the tone for a magical Saturday at Williams-Brice.
No question. And, I mean, he's capable. He broke off that one nice run on Saturday, but he didn't have a lot of running room when he did have a chance to carry the football. The Gamecocks didn't have all that many plays, to be honest with you, so there wasn't all that kind of opportunity to put together those kind of drives where you grind it like Kentucky did in the second quarter. I don't think Kentucky went like 11 straight plays running the football. They were relying on their history against South Carolina, which was to line up and play bully ball, and the Gamecocks kept them out of the end zone.
But I did notice a small little adjustment by Dow at the end of the game, which really helped out, bringing the tight end into the middle of the game, middle of the line to really open things up. So Dow is making some adjustments, but Gamecock fans just got to be patient with the offense. They got to come around.
Yeah, thank you. I thought that was a great adjustment, putting the tight end in motion and then having him stop like as a second quarterback and then plowing into the line. More calls coming up.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. The latest New York Times Siena College poll shows an extremely tight presidential race. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
According to the poll, Donald Trump leads Kamala Harris by 1 point among likely voters. The results show each candidate with clear advantages and disadvantages. Voters favor Harris on democracy and abortion and choose Trump on immigration and economy. The national survey also finds that nearly half of voters view the vice president as too liberal or progressive. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Tomorrow, both Harris and Trump meet for a presidential debate. That debate on ABC will be simulcast live tomorrow evening on the Salem Radio Network. People are gathering in New York City to commemorate the terrorist attacks on September 11th, 2001. Marianne Braverman, a docent at the 9/11 Memorial and Museum, who also worked for a law firm located at Ground Zero during the attacks, says a big takeaway from that day was the kindness and sacrifice of others.
We're able to help each other to get down the stairs, to get away from danger. And that's the most important spirit of 9/11 that we can remember, to take with us that we can be good and helpful to other people.
Family members of 9/11 victims will once again gather on the Memorial Plaza to read aloud the names of those killed in the 9/11 attacks and in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. James Earl Jones, who overcame racial prejudice and a severe stutter to become a celebrated icon of stage and screen, has died. He was 93. Jones is being remembered for his deep, commanding voice. On Wall Street, the Dow by 484 points. The Nasdaq rose 193. More at townhall.com.
If you're the following, not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
My debt problem started probably about 2016. I needed my life to change financially. I called Trinity and I ended up joining based on high credit card bills and high interest rate. And my counselor at Trinity has been great, and Trinity has been helping me to get on the right path of paying off these credit card bills, bringing down the interest rate. They have consolidated my bills into one low monthly payment. And now I am finally getting out of credit card debt. So I just want to say thank you, Trinity, for showing me a better and greater path.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 800-990-6976.
My name is Sharon, and soon I will be debt-free for keeps.
1-800-990-6976. 5.
British Royal Kate, Princess of Wales, in a 3-minute video where she's shown with her husband William and their children, says she'll return to public duties soon. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma has more on this story from London.
Kate, the Princess of Wales, says she's completed chemotherapy and will return to some public duties in the coming months.
Although I finished chemotherapy, my path to healing and full recovery is long, and I must continue to take each day as it comes.
The 42-year-old wife of Prince William's expected to undertake a light program of engagements until the end of the year. Kate already has attended a ceremonial birthday parade for her father-in-law King Charles and presented the men's winners' trophy at the Wimbledon Tennis Championships. Charles de Ledesma, London.
News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Clear and cool this evening with a low temperature dipping to 58. If you've liked today, you'll love tomorrow with more of the same. Lots of sunshine, a high topping out at 85. Clouds do roll in on Wednesday. We'll see more in the second half of the work week. Temperatures staying mild, high temperatures around 80 every day this week. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
Ooh, I like when you press that one.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil and Chris with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Okay, we're back. Sports Talk Media Network on this Manic Monday. Opened up for you right now, 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. If you want to join us, we've cleared the lines, so you've been trying to get through. Now's a good time to ring us up. We can get you on the air. 7:35, Zach Willis will join us for First and 10. As I like to say to Zach, talk football dirty to us. X's and O's. Bring me the X's and O's. So he's going to really talk football dirty to us tonight in talking about South Carolina's performance and Clemson's performance this past Saturday.
It'll be fascinating to hear because he was like I was, and a lot of the folks that when we get to Chuck Reedy and Ellis Johnson later in the week did not think that South Carolina's offensive line would be able to hold up against Kentucky, and how would they be able to get pressure against Kentucky. And I think for the most part, again, and I think Andy hit this on the head, USC's offense still has some work to do, but I don't know if I'm going to go major improvements, but certainly a step in the right direction against Kentucky. Now they're going to have to, as you alluded to earlier, Phil, they're going to have to step it up another notch on Saturday. But being at home and with game day in town, that's normally been a pretty good deal for them. They've usually played well with the spotlight on them.
Yep. Well, I mean, yes, and I mean they've got 2 wins if my memory's right. This will be the 8th time that game day has been in Columbia. They've been here 7 previous times. I think the Gamecocks are 2-5. And obviously when that program comes to any town, they're there because it's a big matchup. You know, it's not like you're playing some weakling. So you're stepping up in class as a team, and you've got to play good football. You got to play smart football. You got to play clean football to have a chance to win that game, even at your own place. I mean, this is LSU we're talking about. We're talking about a team that has an offensive lineman like Will Campbell, who's in his 3rd year there, and he is regarded as one of the top offensive linemen in the country. Across the board, their offensive line is big and it's solid, and for the most part, it's an older group. They do have a redshirt freshman in DJ Chester starting at center. I think I remember following him some in recruiting. That name sounds familiar to me. Another one is Garrett Dellinger, who plays left guard. And again, they're all 315, 320, 330, like Kentucky. But this might be a better offensive line than Kentucky. And then, receivers, Chris Hilton, very good. Kyron Lacey, very good, very dangerous. The quarterback is Garrett Nussmeier, a guy that's waited his time at LSU. He did not, to his credit, he did not shop around when he didn't get the chance to start right away. He stuck in there, and now he's getting his chance. And he had a big game against Nicholls State. What did he throw, 6 touchdown passes, I think? This past week had some huge game against an inferior opponent. But he can throw it. They are right now through 2 games. Of course, they lost to Southern Cal. They play Nicholls State, and now they play the real USC coming up this week. How about that? 2 of your first 3 opponents are known as USC. But we all know which the real USC happens to be right here in Columbia. Now, defensively, we mentioned that one of their top guys is out with an injury, and they have one of the top linebackers in the SEC in Harold Perkins Jr. He's a veteran guy. He's played a lot of football for him. They are a veteran group up front with 3 seniors and a grad student compiling their defensive front. So a lot of experience, a lot of starts. One of the guys, though, who is out is Jacobian Guillory. He would be a starter at defensive tackle. So they do lose him. He's a senior. They do lose him for this game, backed up by a true freshman. So we'll see if they go with the true freshman in that position. But their linebackers are really good. Perkins and Greg Penn and Major Burns. These are all older guys. Again, played a lot of football. So, listen, it's LSU. They're traditional. They draw 100,000. They draw 100,000 per game at home. They recruit some of the best players in the country. They got one of the highest paid coaches in the country. It's LSU. So, what do you expect you're going to see?
Oh, yeah, they've got tremendous talent. They always do. And this is probably a game that they looked at when the season started and had already circled as a win. And considering they've already lost to Southern Cal, and they've got, ironically enough, UCLA the following week,
the
21st, they really can't afford to drop another game, I don't think, because they get pretty much the gauntlet on the west side, if you will. They've still got to go. They've still got Ole Miss. They've got to deal with Texas A&M. They've got to deal with Alabama. They've got to deal with Oklahoma. So I'm thinking they started the season believing this was a game they'd win. And if you look at their schedule, it's probably one they feel like they have to win to stay in the race.
No question. The Gamecocks have released their 2 deep for the game. And as I glance over it very quickly, there's no major changes on here. Everything looks pretty much the same as it has for the first two games. Good to see them get Joshua Simon more involved. He caught a touchdown pass. Nice throw right down the middle. Nice throw to Bennett that Sellers had for the first score of the game. And that's a tough throw because, I mean, he's wide open. Wide open. And so you're a quarterback. You want to, and he's sort of, Mazio Bennett's sort of down there waiting on the football. He's so wide open. And you want to be careful not to overthrow him or underthrow him or throw it a little wide. Sellers put it right on the money. There is nothing wrong with Sellers' arm, that's for sure. He's going to be the complete package for them as he matures and gets more and more comfortable in this offense. And I think we saw him take a step forward with that against Kentucky in a hostile environment. But everything for the Gamecocks, as far as they're too deep, looks normal for them coming out of the weekend as they get ready for LSU. All right, phone number 888-898-2525. South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. Love to hear from you. Get your thoughts on the weekend. Our lines are now open after a jammed first hour. So feel free to give us a call, and you can get right through to us. Let's catch you up on some other notes from the weekend. Coastal Carolina, a 17-point favorite at Temple. So they're starting to attract the favorite status of the gambling world there. That's a heavy line for them to carry up to Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
17 points on the road.
Rushed for about 300 yards in each of the first two games. So, they've done a nice job with the ground attack. And defensively, they're still playing awfully well. So I think Temple's certainly should be a winnable game for them as long as they're not. And it doesn't seem to be in Tim Beck's sort of psyche. They're not looking forward to that big home game next week against UVA.
Huge game. That place, assuming that you beat Temple, and still have to go do it. They announced 19,000 plus for your game this past weekend. And I mean,
Fourth largest crowd in school history.
What can you hold? What can they pack into their standing room only and all that?
That's a really good question. I'd have to go back and see how many they had in there for the BYU game when game day was actually at Coastal. I'd have to see how many they had for that. My guess is you get upwards of 21,000. You start ticking towards 22,000. The fire marshal is going to show up. So, yeah, I think they'll have every bit of 20,000 if they win Saturday, which I anticipate they will.
NC State at Clemson will have a noon kickoff. That game will be on ABC. And Akron at USC will have a 7:30 kickoff on ESPNU. Florida State has lost running back Jalen Lucas for the year. That was announced today to an injury. He's been mostly a punt returner and kickoff return man for the Seminoles. Our poll question of the week brought to you by Larry Lucas State Farm Insurance in Columbia. Give Larry a call and let him handle all your insurance needs. I had to call them the other day and got a very quick response and got the answer I was looking for. And they'll give you that exact kind of service. Here's that number. Write it down and use it. 803-799-1998. 803-799-1998. Larry Lucas Insurance in Columbia. So the Gamecocks, 9.5-point underdogs to LSU Saturday in Columbia, and the over is 54.5. What's the play? 213 votes in today, and 52.6%. They're going to take the Gamecocks and the points, which is where I think I would lean right now. 21.6 are taking the Tigers and laying the points. 23% will play the under. They think it's going to be under 54.5 on the total. 2.8% would take the over. So here are the Gamecocks again. On the road, a 9.5-point dog. Now at home, a 9.5-point dog. Chris, again, take the points. I said they wouldn't need the points against Kentucky, and that turned out to be the case. I'm not so sure here. I think if the Gamecocks win this game, it'll probably be of course, I thought it would be a close win at Kentucky because they traditionally play close games. But here, if they're going to win, I think it will definitely be something that comes down to a 3 or 4 point kind of thing if they're going to win.
I think one thing we have learned, and I should have known better going into last weekend, and I didn't because I went the wrong way on both picks, but whenever you start to question Shane Beamer's team, they always seem to respond. Same thing with Dabo Sweeney's squad. I mean, when you start to question them and as the game passed Dabo by and all this kind of stuff, and again, it was against Appalachian, but nonetheless, it was a dominating performance from start to finish. And for Kate Klubnik, it's hard to do what he did on air, much less against another team. And the same thing with Beamer. I mean, you think back to the year they took out Tennessee and Clemson. They could not have played any worse than they did the week before at Florida. And I don't even think either one of us thought they'd stay within 2 touchdowns of Tennessee, much less beat them as badly as they did, and then turn around and beat Clemson the following week.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one thing probably would have been better served had they been 2-0 or, and looked bad in both games, and they'd be doubted going into the LSU game because I think they'd come out and play extremely well, much the way they did this past Saturday at Kentucky.
All right, finish up with a few more notes. 888-898-2525 if you want to join us. That Coastal Virginia game, by the way, has been set for a 2 o'clock kick on ESPN Plus, 2 o'clock in Conway for that one. Clemson quarterback Cade Klubnik is the co-quarterback of the week in the ACC. Yeah, McCord
had a better game than him.
Well, McCord at Syracuse had a very meaningful win against Georgia Tech and had a big game as well. I mean, yeah, Klubnik had the great stats, but again, you have to kind of temper that a little bit considering the opposition. At least, what McCord did, he had a really good big game against a league team, Georgia Tech, that was coming in hot.
Mm-hmm.
And they beat
I
them.
thought they'd lose that game, actually, in
Yeah,
Syracuse.
I did too. South Carolina had a couple of players honored as well. Safety Nick Emanwori, SEC Defensive Player of the Week, and punter Kai Kroger is the SEC Special Teams Player of the Week, coming off their efforts on Saturday. And how about those Wofford Terriers, 2-0, beating a nationally ranked Richmond team on the road, and they had a couple of players to earn Southern Conference Player of the Week honors. They are on the offensive end. Give me just a second here. Let's see here. Trying to read the names here. Anyway, they picked up a very nice win. Their quarterback is playing very well for them. They picked up a very nice win on the road. Here we go. Amari Odom is the offensive player of the week. He's the quarterback who's playing very, very well. And defensive back Amir Anur is the defensive player of the week. So you have an Amari and an Amir. Amari Odom and Amir Anur. Players of the week from the Southern Conference from Wofford. One of the big surprises in FCS, I would say, 2-0 start. And on the flip side, Furman is 0-2. Of course, they lose to Ole Miss, but they lose at home to Charleston Southern. So kudos to Charleston Southern going on the road and beating Furman. So if you're Choso, you've lost a tough home game to the Citadel. You've gone up to Furman and win. Citadel rallies to beat Choso in the first game of the season and then loses in a close one to South Carolina State at home. Congratulations to State, Coach Berry winning his first game with the Bulldogs. Presbyterian goes to Erskine and wins, so good win for PC there. And anyway, some of the things that have happened over the weekend. Am I forgetting anything from Saturday?
Well, I was just going to go back to Wofford for a moment. They were also named the Stats Perform FCS National Team of the Week for the first time. They've got back-to-back road wins over teams that made the FCS playoffs last year to open up the 2024 season. And, oh, by the way, they get a nationally ranked team. I'm assuming William and Mary will stay there. They get the Tribe this week. I was joking during our broadcast if William and Mary would just stay in South Carolina all week long. But, yeah, they'll be at Wofford this coming Saturday.
Well, a chance to go 3-0, and it's funny, how things turn. I mean, they really struggled last year. Yet, keep in mind, they won their last two, so they're actually on a 4-game winning streak by winning the first two. And keep in mind this about South Carolina: you might not know this, but they've won 5 of 6 from the end of last year to now. With that one loss being to Clemson. Remember, they were struggling, and they won 3 in a row with a chance to get to a bowl game if they beat Clemson. They did not. And then they've won their first 2. So that's 5 out of 6 for the Gamecocks. All right, let's run to the break, and we'll come back and give you the recruiting report tonight here on Sports Talk. A lot of stuff to share with you. Then Zach Willis will join us at the bottom of the hour, 1st and 10, with Coach Zach Willis. First up this week to break everything down for us here on Sports Talk. We'll be back after this break. Don't go away.
George Bryant here with Tsunami Bar Sports, and wow, Tsunami Robbie, there is now an amazing technology that you use when you train receiving large game without having to endure pain. Please explain.
George, that is the magic combination. I have 3 simple words to define that entire concept. Stimulation, not annihilation. Regardless of your training goals, there is a level of stimulation that is optimal for your desired gains. Tsunami Bar's flexible bar technology meets these demands because the user determines the level of stimulation with the amount of speed and force they impart into the bar or training device.
Hey, this is Phil Kornbluth. The Tsunami Bar is a terrific training device, whether you're working on your fitness or your golf game. It's convenient, it's easy to use, and you won't feel beat up afterwards. Be sure to click on the digital ad on SportsTalkSC.com and get 5% off any order. Promo code BBB5. Don't wait. Order today.
Football season is upon us, and that means Columbia is welcoming fans from around the corner and across the country. No matter where you're from, Gamecocks love coming together for game day energy that can only be found in South Carolina's capital city. Book hotel rooms, find pre- and post-game activities, and plan your tailgate spread with local favorites from pimento cheese to barbecue at experiencecolumbiasc.com. We'll see you soon, and go Gamecocks!
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. I'm not a case manager. I'm a lawyer for over 35 years. I don't charge 40% for your injury in your wreck case, any on-the-job injury. Call 803-765-2968 and ask for Jim Corbett, or email me, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com, for the experience of a lawyer handling your injury case. Jim Corbett, 803-765-2968. jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. Put 35 years of experience to work on your injury case.
Touchstone Energy cooperative members save more on electricity, and members save more on insurance, groceries, healthcare, restaurants, travel, concerts, and sporting events through Co-op Connections. Touchstone Energy is an alliance of the member-owned electric cooperatives, and as a member, the power is yours. Experience the power of co-op membership with Touchstone Energy and find out how you can save on electricity and a whole lot more at touchstoneenergy.com. If you're looking to stay hydrated this summer, turn toward a southern favorite, sweet South Carolina watermelons. One slice is equivalent to a glass of water and is just as effective as sports drinks for hydration. If you don't believe us, you can ask the Palmetto State's top football teams. The SC Watermelon Association will be serving up slices after summer practice to keep our teams fueled and hydrated. Visit scwatermelon.org for all the details and look for ripe South Carolina watermelons in your hometown.
You've put in the work for your education. The extra early, extra late, extra work. That's because you understand education opens doors, better pay, better opportunities, and a better you. Being educated about playing the lottery is no different. It helps you be a better player, one who knows when to play and when to take a rain check. The lottery's a game, so let's keep it fun. Learn more at sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
The Sports Talk Recruiting Report is sponsored by Seawell's Catering.
Give you the recruiting report on this Manic Monday night on Sports Talk, brought to you by Seawell's. Seawell's Daily Luncheon Buffet. Make sure you get there this week. Don't know what the menu looks like. They haven't posted the menu. Outside of depth charts, there's nothing more anticipated every week in South Carolina than the menu at Seawell's.
But I can tell you, unlike depth charts, Seawell's will never disappoint in the menu.
That's right. 5 stars across the board. They never
Indeed.
make a mistake in recruiting their food. So check that out Tuesdays through Fridays at Seawells State Fairgrounds across from the State Fairgrounds on Rosewood Drive. And, of course, you got something coming up requiring the best in the catering business. You give Seawells a call. Let them handle it all. 803-771-7385 online at SeawellsCateringSC.com. So Clemson had a home game, and they had number of visitors in from the 26-27 classes, and they had some of their commits in as well. From the 26 class, running back Jalen McGill out of Mountain View, who was offered. 26 defensive tackle Bryce Perry Wright, Buford, Georgia. Offensive tackle Malcolm Gaston, North Augusta. Offensive tackle Carter Jones of Virginia. Offensive tackle Bear McWhorter out of Cartersville, Georgia. Offensive tackle Tyler Merrill of Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. Offensive tackle Zion Giles, expected to be there, out of Carver's Bay. Offensive tackle Braden Wilms of Lawrence, Kansas. 27 offensive tackle Carter Scruggs, Leesburg, Virginia. And 27 quarterback Mason Holtzclaw of Arden, North Carolina, formerly of Wren. I mentioned McGill got offered by Clemson. He was a guest of Georgia at the Clemson game in Atlanta, and he plans to visit South Carolina this Saturday. USC 2026 commitment athlete Rodney Colton, Noonan, Georgia, plans to visit USC Saturday. He was at Georgia last Saturday, and he's going to make some other visits around to other schools. 2026 running back Carson Baker of Fairburn, Georgia, plans to visit USC Saturday. He was at Auburn this past weekend. 2026 running back Usman Croma of Leesburg, Georgia, plans to visit USC Saturday. According to Chad Simmons of On3, he was at Georgia last Saturday. Clemson target, defensive tackle Walter Mathis of Savannah announced a commitment to LSU Friday night. He made an official visit to Clemson in June. Clemson target, 2026 offensive guard Grant Wise of Milton, Florida, was at Oklahoma Saturday. USC commitment, defensive end Anthony Addison of Sumter, was offered by NC State. 2026 offensive tackle Desmond Green of Timberland was at Georgia Saturday. 2026 safety Tamarian Watkins of Northwestern visited North Carolina Saturday. 2026 defensive end Xavion Griffin Haynes of Raleigh, who had an offer from USC and visited in January, committed to North Carolina. In basketball, 6'3" Zach Foster of Atlanta made an official visit to Clemson over the weekend. He made an official visit to Virginia Tech the previous weekend, and West Virginia has also been strongly involved. USC offered 2027 6'9" Charles Purr out of South Sudan and Burlington, North Carolina. He was in for practice and for the ODU game earlier this month. He's in the 27 class, so he's got a ways to go. Cincinnati has also offered, and Nicholls State, but South Carolina is going to be strongly involved here. They really like him, and he likes them. He averaged 18 and 8 last season. 6'8", Zamichael Wilkins of Arden, North Carolina, made an official to Georgetown over the weekend. He's also been to NC State. This weekend, he's scheduled for USC. Then he has Dayton, Clemson, Villanova, and Georgia the following weekends. That's recruiting. Sports Talk, Monday night. It's Manic. It's Zach Willis coming up.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Cool with a low temperature dipping to 58. If you've liked today, you'll love tomorrow with more of the same. Lots of sunshine, a high topping out at 85. Clouds do roll in on Wednesday. We'll see more rain in the second half of the work week. Temperatures staying mild, high temperatures around 80 every day this week. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
Hey, Columbia, did you know there's a beautiful sporting clays course, rifle range, and 200-person event center just 30 minutes from downtown? The Palmetto State Armory Outdoor Range in Swansea, South Carolina has everything you need to prepare for this upcoming hunting season, from sighting in your rifle to knocking off the rust on your shotgun. Are you looking for somewhere to host an event or fundraiser? We have everything you need to make your outing one they won't forget. Come check us out at 1201 Redmond Mill Road in Swansea, South Carolina. Find us at facebook.com/PSAOutdoor. That's facebook.com/PSAOutdoor.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting. An arrest warrant says the man accused of opening fire on a Kentucky highway vowed to kill a lot of people before he shot and wounded 5 people. The warrant affidavit quotes a text message that police say Joseph Couch sent to a woman 30 minutes before he opened fire Saturday on Interstate 75. That affidavit quoted a separate text in which Couch said he would kill himself after the shooting. Miami Dolphins player Tyreek Hill was handcuffed and placed face down on the ground by police during a traffic stop because he was not immediately cooperative with officers, the president of South Florida Police Union said in a statement. Passing fans and some teammates saw Hill in handcuffs with at least 3 officers around him following a stop outside the team's stadium. On Wall Street, the Dow by 484 points. This is SRN News.
You hear about all these tax credits available for getting solar power for your home or your business, and yeah, they're pretty awesome. But what about your church? Yeah. What about your nonprofit? How can you benefit from tax credits if you don't pay taxes? Well, now there's a great program in place for nonprofits. Think about that. Your church still has a pretty big power bill, right? What about taking control, saving that church money every single month by using solar power from Broker Solar? Installation rebates, tremendous savings. Bet you've never even thought about it. Maybe it's time to talk about it at your church or your nonprofit. Broker Solar has all the answers. Ken and his team know every program, every opportunity for your home, your business, and yes, your nonprofit. So you can save dollars, get rebates, get government credits. Isn't it worth looking into? Online, it's brokersolar.com, or give Ken a call. 807-7417 at Broker Solar. That's 807-7417. And tell them Kev sent you.
This is Fran Halloran. Tune into my show, The Intentional Living Power Hour, on Thursday mornings from 9 to 10 for simple and practical financial coaching on The Point. 100.7 FM, 1470 AM, Columbia's local talk radio experience.
Hey, garden expert or beginner, come out and get your seeds and plants from Growing Your Garden with Sal this season. They're an SE certified farm offering local vegetable seedlings as well as plants and seeds. We teach you how to grow your garden even if you don't have a green thumb. Online at salslocalseed.com or visit 113 Hilltop Drive in Columbia. That's salslocalseed.com. Support your local farmers.
Tradition and quality. That's what you get with H&J Cattle Company, where local third-generation farmers ensure you receive the finest beef in South Carolina. Our registered Hereford and Wagyu cattle are raised with sustainable practices, without growth hormones, antibiotics, or animal byproducts. The difference, with the highest quality beef guaranteed. Order now at hdjcattle.co or on Instagram and Facebook at hdjcattle.co. Again, hdjcattle.co, where ethics meets quality.
This is Fran Halloran, the Money Coach. Grow with the Point as we build on 10 incredible years of community local radio. We've built an environment where our listeners are our family. Are you a small business with big dreams? Join the tremendous stable of advertising partners at The Point. Connect with Kevin Cohen and brainstorm a tailored strategy to escalate your business growth using the powerful platform of The Point. Call Kev directly at 563-8558. Teaming with The Point, you can make the next year your best year.
Hello, this is Stacy of Huff Nation Sports Zone, each and every Saturday, 10 to 11 a.m. right here on 100.7 FM, The Point, and also 1470 a.m. It'll be a fun trip around the world of sports. Huff Nation Sports Zone, check it out.
Now, First and 10 with Zach Willis on the Sports Talk Media Network.
We're driving
All right, it is time for First and 10 here on Sports First Up every week to talk dirty football to us. Xing and Oing with the best of them. He is Coach Zach Willis. Great to have you with us. Great seeing you and the family yesterday in London, Kentucky. That's a very rural and small area, Zach, and it became like the focal point of the world over the weekend.
Yeah, we had a little bit more excitement than just college football. It wasn't the kind you want to have, that's for sure.
Any news up your way? I think, are they still looking for the goon, or have they gotten their hands on him?
No, they're still looking, Phil. They found his car and the assault weapon that he had, but no sign. And really, if a person has spent their life up here, this is not the easiest place in the world to catch somebody, but he's in a community that is more than ready to handle it if it comes our way. We just hope nobody else gets hurt.
Well, the good thing is, from where you live and where my hotel was, it's about, 8 or 9 miles up the interstate. Yeah, so you kind of figure he took off they said he was going north over the weekend, or I guess maybe Saturday night he was heading north. You figure he's kind of, if he's still alive, I understand he was threatening to commit suicide after he was going to do his evil act. But you kind of figure that he took off in the woods up that way and away from you guys?
I do feel, I think he probably did. And heading probably for more metropolitan area to kind of blend in. But who knows with someone in that mental state.
True that. Well, I'm glad everybody, is as okay as they can be considering the circumstances, and he didn't do any more damage. Okay, let's go to the football. Again, it was great seeing you yesterday coming back through. And what about South Carolina and Kentucky? And looking at it and breaking it down, what did you see that the Gamecocks did well enough to go get that W?
Well, I think, first of all, winning on the road in the SEC is huge. Anytime you can do that, no matter where you are. And, I felt like, honestly, obviously we all got to give credit to the defense. They absolutely dominated that football game, starting with the front seven, but Eamon Warry with an incredible athletic interception. It turned into a pick six because he's just such a great player, one of the best safeties in the country. And Stewart emerging as one of the top freshmen in the country. Really, really athletic, long kid. But the whole unit played extremely well. There's no question about that.
How did you like their scheme, the way they came out playing a 3-man front, and then they adjusted a great deal into a 4-man front? What was, from your experience, what's the thinking there when you come out in that scheme? You switch over to the other scheme. What's Clayton White and his staff thinking about there?
Well, honestly, when you look at football, we refer to them as even and odd schemes. And the reason it's so advantageous to do that is most offenses completely have a different set of blocking rules and assignments for an even scheme versus an odd scheme. If you slide right or left, as you see people do, and you don't add a man or subtract a man away from the line of scrimmage and go from even to odd, most teams don't. I mean, obviously they adjust to it, but it's not a problem. When you go from even to odd, or 3-man to 4-man, and vice versa, you can really mess up the pass protection or run blocking on the play. And South Carolina did that, and combined with how aggressive and athletic they were, it really gave Kentucky's offensive line fits. And that's a veteran unit. But man, they forced Kentucky into a ton of mental errors, which are the ones that really get you beat up and really just rendered their quarterback ineffective. He was gun shy. I'd say halfway through the second quarter. I did complete a pass of 7:30, I think they said, the last time he completed a pass, I think, until they either put him on the bench or well into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they really harassed him, and it made him very uncomfortable back there, and he was rushing passes, and I think there was, and the other thing about Kentucky, they were a very undisciplined group. So surprisingly to you that they would be that undisciplined with all the penalties?
I was very surprised at some of the things that they did. Stoops has been there for a long time. He's the winningest coach in school history. And even when they lose ball games, they usually are just out-athleted. You very rarely see them make the kind of mistakes they were making. And you have to give Carolina credit for some of that at least, because they were on them. from the get-go, and the aggressiveness on the defensive side of the football was obvious and apparent, and really impressed with what they were able to do. And they've done it for 2 weeks in a row now. Obviously, they've got a great opponent coming up to see just how good they are, but you got to give them kudos, Phil, because there's just no weaknesses in their game. There's nothing there that, oh, this was bad or that was bad. I thought they played great all day, and the style of defense I love to see.
Yeah.
D-line on the attack.
On the offensive side, again, it wasn't a thing of beauty. It wasn't like they were churning out, huge amounts of yardage. But I think, when these two teams play, it's usually not a pretty game. It's a brawl with heavy defense and turnovers and special teams playing a role. And the Gamecocks got that. They got good special teams play, good punting. In fact, Kroger not only kicked it long, but he pinned Kentucky back quite a bit. They made their field goal attempt, so Herrera continues to be very good for them. And, offensively, Sellers hit some big passes. His percentage was very high. Didn't ask him to throw a whole lot, and he was sacked 3 times. What are you seeing on the sacks? Is it just he's not getting enough time, or is he sometimes holding on to the ball too long from what you can tell?
I think it's a little bit of both. They're South Carolina's offensive line is one thing is Kentucky's not known for pressuring people, and that really worked to South Carolina's advantage, and they took advantage of it. I think Dow Loggins, we talked about it. You can see a strategy with what he does and what he's trying to do, whether they're out athleted or not. I don't see many times where they're out schemed. Now, their offensive line, still in my opinion, has trouble with pressure. If they're going to give up a sack, that's usually they let a guy run free. They miss them. They don't see them. They don't understand their assignments, but something breaks mentally, which concerns you. You'd rather a kid be where he's supposed to be and get out-athleted. At least he can get in somebody's way. But with Kentucky not being a high-pressure team, it really played into their advantage, and they took full advantage of it. I thought Sellers had a throw in the third quarter where they tried to play cover 3, which is 3 deeps, to a trips, which is 3 receivers to one side, and South Carolina ran 3 verticals, and he hit the big tight end in the end zone for a touchdown around the 6-minute, 30-second mark. It was a beautiful play.
Yeah.
Really high-level throw, high-level read and timing on his part. I mean, you have to be the real deal to make that throw, and he made it. And so, to me, that was the light coming on, because it wasn't just a wide-open throw. It looked easier than it is to do. But they froze the safety in the corner and hit him right in the seam. It was a great play. So, I came out of that thinking, here's what I see with South Carolina and Kentucky as they coach. Both fan bases and both teams just automatically mark the other one down as a win every year.
Mm-hmm.
And I've lived up here. Of course, I grew up and worked at South Carolina. And the truth of the matter is, it's always a dogfight. And South Carolina, this is a huge win on the margin part of it, because, like you said, I think last year they broke a 5-game. They lost 5 years in a row to them, and they beat them 17-14, and that's about the average game for. This was a huge blowout for the margin that they had, and they dominated this football game. I was shocked. Kentucky had I want to say they had an off day, Phil, but honestly, South Carolina just beat them pretty bad and forced them into some, especially the defense. The one thing I do want to point out and really give credit again to the coaching staff at South Carolina is they had what we call a Y stack or Y hide formation that they went to late in the game in the last half of the third quarter. It looked like they almost had 2 quarterbacks in the game, but that was a tight end. They ran counters off of that, did some really neat stuff off of it, pulled him, blocked down on some people with him, and got Rocket free for some big runs. And it opened up the run game. I just thought that was a great little adjustment or add-in that they planned for. And those are the things that, as a coach, you look for, and that, man, that was a game changer. And that kind of was the finisher in that ball game. And it's what you look for, that they were able to execute out of that. That was something new that they were able to hold back into the end. And when they needed to run the ball and run clock and get one more score, they did it with that formation. It was really brought me back to the Washington Redskins when Joe Gibbs started using, they called him an H-back then. and they ran counter trade that way with Clint Didier, if you remember him. And had John Riggins, and then of course George Rogers, some big backs that they used for years to win 3 Super Bowls, and it was kind of a throwback to that era. Very well done by South Carolina.
I agree. I thought they were well coached. I thought they had a good game plan, well prepared. Another good example was when they had a fourth down and about maybe 4 or 5. They were in the punt formation, and then it was Brady Hunt, I believe, who ran in under center like he was going to take the snap. They drew Kentucky. I can't believe Kentucky jumped, but they drew them off sides, and they got a first down for it. And they maintained possession of the football. Just good, smart execution and smart playing at that point.
Well, they actually were in regular formation in shotgun, and he jumped in there. And so Kentucky, I think, thought they were going to try impromptu trick quarterback sneak, and he gave a real hard count. And again, though, it's just an agreement with what you're saying. I mean, they could have always I think they had a freeze play on, which means they were going to hard count it, using Brady Hunt as, hey, we're going to trick us here and sneak it. And Kentucky bought it and jumped. And then I think it was a veteran guy that jumped off sides, and there's a couple of them there. And South Carolina was smart enough to not snap the ball, but make sure he lunged and touched the kid. And a friend of mine, Matt Austin, said he disagreed with them calling it because he reached out and touched him, but that is the rule. If you make contact, that's all they need. And it was an excellent, well-coached play by South Carolina. Again, evidence that they're moving in the right direction, Phil, for sure. And it was a really – I went back and watched it again. I was like, dang, everything they planned here fit together, and they didn't make Sellers didn't beat them. He helped them win, and I think he grew up a bunch in that football game.
Got to find a running game, though. And by that, I mean they've got the running back. There's no doubt Rocket Sanders is elite, but they've got to get him some room. They give him some room, he can make some special things happen.
Well, the problem there is just the ability of the offensive line. I don't think they have not recruited very well. Now they've got a true freshman starting at tackle, and he played really well in this ball game. That tells you the depth is just not there. And you've got to get kids that are not waist benders, Phil. Guys that can play with bent knees and ankles and play in an athletic position. And when you watch South Carolina play, I was like, this is two teams with bad offensive lines. But I think Kentucky's is more coaching than South Carolina's is. And, we could go down that road, but technically, South Carolina's pad level is so high, it's hard to get a running game going against a really good SEC football team. And Kentucky's got a good defense, and they gave Carolina fits. Now, again, kudos to Coach Loggins and the offensive staff for getting that tight end in there in that Y hide or Y stack formation and get some critical yards when they need it. I think Rocket's having a hard time getting going because there's just not a whole lot in front of it.
1st and 10 with Zach Willis here on Sports Talk, looking back at the weekend, South Carolina's win over Kentucky and also Clemson's blowout of Appalachian State. And, Coach, go back to when you were coaching, and it's always cliched, but I think we saw the truth of this statement about you make your most improvement from week 1 to week 2. Clearly, South Carolina was a different team than they were against Old Dominion. Clemson, a different team, though the opponents were clearly different from Georgia and Appalachian State. Why is it, though, that you make your greatest improvement from game 1 to game 2? Is it just as simple as the fact that you're playing someone other than yourself so you can figure out what you were doing wrong during the preseason?
There's no reps like game reps, and especially in college football where you can't scrimmage another opponent. All you're doing is banging against each other, and the coaches now more than ever are trying to mitigate injuries and not get anybody hurt in preseason. So the closer they get to game time, the less contact you're going to have. Timing is such a big deal with these teams. And you've got, South Carolina's got 21 transfers on their roster now. This is an area where Clemson should have an advantage on the timing, and it showed in their ball game. But that's why. It's just because there's nothing. I mean, you go from no fans to 80,000 fans. And if you've got first-time players or freshmen, it's even a whole nother level of trying to adjust and, kind of get in there and get settled in. So week one, it can be very dangerous. That's why most teams will not play a Georgia week one that are on Clemson's level. But Dabo welcomes that. I think South Carolina playing Old Dominion, they were not easy out. We saw just how good they were and how much trouble they gave South Carolina. So you have tape to teach off of. You've got corrections that you can make now. The players have been humbled a little bit, hopefully. If they played somebody that gave them a feel they made mistakes, and there are more teachable moments in there. So there's a ton of reasons for it, but it's absolutely the truth. And I thought both teams, really a quarterback for Clemson, man, he was like a different kid. So kudos to both staffs for sure.
Talking to Zach Willis, 1st and 10. Zach Willis talking dirty football with us here. By that I mean X's and O's when I say talk dirty
Wouldn't
to
that
me.
be lovely football instead of dirty football?
Well, dirty. I mean, you've heard the expression
Hugs
talk.
and kisses or X's and O's.
You've heard the expression talk dirty to me, right? So I tell Zach, talk dirty to me in football language. I want dirty talk, football, X's and O's. So, but not to get too personal. Zach Willis here with us, 1st and 10. So Clemson, you touched on it, and the Tigers, of course, they exploded against Appalachian State. I thought Clemson would win that game and cover. I didn't expect that, but they had a performance reminiscent to their glory days of recent past, where 2-3 plays in, boom, they've hit you with a big pass, and then big play after big play, running game mixed in with the passing game, explosives, something they've not had since Garrett Riley got there. Now, like you said, it's Appalachian State. All due respect, is this the product of who they were playing, or the product of just Clemson putting it all together, and an indication of what Tiger fans should expect moving forward?
Well, I think it's what they have a right to expect, because Appalachian State has a very good record against other ACC teams in the recent past, as we all know. And when I say recent past, going back to their 1AA days when they were 3-time national champs in a row under Coach Moore, I mean, that's not a program that you beat like that. And I was concerned that we were going to have a dogfight in there, and Clemson is just as elite as they've been as far as team speed goes, because we saw just, number one, the receivers are there. The talent is still there. They've got to get it out of them every week like they did this past week. And nobody's better after a loss than Dabo. I really believe that. It's hard. You don't see those guys go into too big a slump. Last year was about as bad as we've seen out of them in a very long time, and they still won 9 games. So there's a high standard there. But here's the thing. I thought Klubnik, was a key. His anticipation of what was going to happen was at a completely different level than it ever has been since I've seen him play at Clemson. He was throwing the ball like Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson. He was throwing it like what we expect him to see. He was throwing it before they were making their breaks. He wasn't, back at high school on that level where they're wide open. Even a good high school quarterback can lay it out in front of a receiver. But he was doing this to kids that were, getting behind people, but he had enough arm. He was getting rid of the ball on time and putting it in pinpoint spots he made perfect throws, which is something we don't see out of him. And if you watch his feet and feel this is something I'll give you credit for, when his feet are happy, the Tigers ain't going to be happy because he's dancing around that pocket. And this is a coaching thing. You asked me for more of this. When his feet are still and calm, they're going to be real happy like they were early Saturday evening, about 5 minutes into that game. I mean, they just blew the doors off of a very respectable program, in Appalachian State. I mean, I don't know the last time they've been beat like that, and they probably can't tell you either, but they just got outclassed. But Clemson was on fire offensively and defensively. They pretty much always are playing at a high level. But yeah, I mean, if Klubnik plays like that, it's going to be a great year for Clemson fans. But he's got to bring that kind of game every week, and if he does, I have no doubt. I mean, I think Appalachian State could play in the ACC. I think Appalachian State's definitely better. I think if Kentucky played like they played against South Carolina, I think him and App State have a heck of a game, and App State might just beat them. But they destroyed that team, destroyed them, and did it in a quarter. What was it, 35 points?
Yeah.
or something like that, or 42. I mean, the first quarter was insane. And the thing was, it wasn't massive errors by App State. They ran by them, and Klubnik put it on the mark. I mean, it was to the inch where it needed to be, not only position-wise, but the timing of it. It was Trevor Lawrence 101. Trevor Lawrence walked in the door doing that. And that's a generational player. Deshaun Watson developed into that. Again, once in a generation, a little bit different. But this kid did it Saturday night. Now, can he do it every week? I'm not saying that, but he's got it in him. We saw it.
Well, here's the question. We got about 3 minutes. I mean, you saw Clemson against Georgia basically get manhandled, and then you see them play Appalachian State, one of the better teams in the Sun Belt, if not the best team in the Sun Belt, and they manhandled them. Where is this Clemson team? They've got 2 weeks for NC State. I mean, they're certainly not one extreme, the Georgia extreme, but are they the Appalachian State extreme, or are they somewhere, if not in the middle, maybe shaded a little bit closer to that Appalachian State extreme?
I think when they're on the road in the ACC, they're going to be closer to App State, because we've seen them kind of start slow at home, which again, that was a major trend breaker. As you know, when they've been upset many times, when I think of it, they've been beaten at home. Even in their national championship time, I know one year they lost to Syracuse when they were in their peak, and then didn't lose again. But the big thing for me is I think they're more toward, because Dabo again is great if he can get any positive momentum as a motivator, and Garrett Riley tapped into whatever he was calling was working, and I think what he and Klubnik are on the same page now. They should stay on the same page. And if the receivers continue to run with that kind of speed and execution, we know their defense is going to show up and play great. They got a chance to be really good, Phil. I say more toward the app side, and that's where they want to build to. And they learn from the Georgia thing. And Dabo said it best, and I don't want to lose this. He said the mistakes we made against Georgia were correctable. It wasn't a lack of effort. That is a crucial element to winning and playing championship football is 4 quarters of all-out effort and concentration. If you get beat physically, I'm not going to say it's fine, but that's one thing. But these middle areas I talked about with Kentucky, okay, and before with South Carolina, not so much Saturday, when you cut those out, things change drastically in football. And they cut them out. Not only Clemson cut them out, they went in the opposite direction and made some incredible throws and catches in that football game. And they were as good as they could beat anybody in the country that night. Now, will they do it again? I don't know. We've got to see what happens. Consistency, as Coach Holtz taught me years ago, is more important than greatness. But consistently can lead to greatness if you just get a little bit better every week. That's a Bear Bryant saying, and they're both true. That's what Clemson fans need to be watching for.
All right, my friend, great job. Thank you for talking dirty football to us, and we will talk to you next week.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, my friends. Take care.
Tell my pal Sarah I said hello.
Oh, I'm sure she's listening, but getting ready to critique me on my dirty talk.
All right. Take care, my friend. Talk to you next week. Breaking news out of CBS Sports: Deshaun Watson accused of a 2020 sexual assault in a lawsuit filed today in Texas.
Yeah,
they got a copy of that lawsuit, and just another legal matter that has now been dumped on top of his head.
To go along with just horrific quarterback play yesterday against the Cowboys. Remember when Dabo Swinney said, if you don't take Deshaun Watson, you're passing on Michael Jordan? I think he may have over-exaggerated Watson's ability a touch.
Well, early in his career, NFL-wise, he was darn good.
Mm-hmm.
Injuries, and then, the trade and everything else that happened in Houston. All right, that'll do it. Thank you to everybody. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Josh. See you tomorrow.